What is going on, Amazon sellers? Happy Wednesday, and welcome back to the weekly show where we share some news and answer your guys' questions. I'm Chris Grant, and to my right is my quasi-hermeneutic co-host, Chris Rasick. Joel, what's going on, man? For those of you who might be new here, our job is to try to make your life a little bit easier as an Amazon seller. Maybe you've got questions about flipping things from the clearance aisle at Walmart, pulling the trigger on an OA order. Maybe you want to dive into wholesale, or perhaps you've come across a curious Keepa chart. Well, we're here to help. Along the way, we're going to share some stats, some news stories, maybe the occasional business maxim to help you be a better business owner. Chris, how's Wednesday treating you, man?
Wednesday's pretty good. It's one of those rare times where I don't let myself stall or get distracted. Feeling accomplished, and we happen to be running the show today on the 51st anniversary of probably the most ill-conceived promotion ever concocted in the history of major sports. It is the June 4th, 1974, 51 years ago exactly, was 10-cent beer night at Cleveland Municipal Stadium. And if you're unfamiliar with the story, try to catch some audio. Especially Joe Tate and I forget who, Herb Score, were the Cleveland announcers at the time. It's pretty funny. Needless to say, there are probably some men in their 60s and 70s with permanent limps that have some great stories to tell. So it's the 51st anniversary of 10-cent beer night. It's a fantastic story.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go refresh my memory on that. But I've heard some crazy things come out of that.
Yeah, the audio broadcast. I think it was Herb Score. They're doing play-by-play, and like multiple times you hear him, because there's fights breaking out in different areas of the field because fans just keep pouring in. They're lit, right? So they keep pouring onto the field and attacking like the baseball players. And Herb Score is talking about Mike Hargrove had somebody on the ground and he's just beating him to a pulp. And he goes, I don't understand why there's still more. And then you hear him over and over. They go, oh, here we go again. Another fight breaks out. And it's fantastic.
That's awesome.
And at one point they said, I don't know if they said, how drunk do you have to be? But like, they literally make the point where like, how does it become a good idea to jump onto the field and look for a fight when there's a bunch of baseball players swinging bats, like, looking to connect with, fans' heads and whatnot. So, yeah.
Right.
It's hilarious.
That's so great. Yeah. And Perry's got it right. I mean, whoever thought 10-cent beers in Cleveland was a good idea they were not in touch with the Cleveland fan base at all. Hey, Chris, what's going on? Yeah, I'm going to say it because, we're 5 minutes in and nobody's said it yet. The background is looking choice, man. I really like what you did.
You. Yeah, I have more depth to my desk. So I was hoping my giant head would take up less of the screen, but it doesn't seem to be. There's some tweaks needed, but yeah. I rearranged it a little bit.
Yeah, it looks good. Before we dive in, we've always got a little bit of an ad spot. And this week's is in 1955, Ray Kroc saw something unusual in San Bernardino, California. It wasn't just that the McDonald brothers were selling burgers. I mean, there were plenty of burger joints. It was how they were doing it. The kitchen they were selling burgers out of was tiny. The menu was incredibly simple, but the service was fast and everything was the same. And what really caught his eye is that they had this repeatable system in place. You see, Ray Kroc, he wasn't a chef. He wasn't a restaurateur. He was actually a struggling milkshake machine salesman. And I don't know if we want to blame him for the broken McFlurry machines even to this day, but I'm going to go ahead and hold him to that. But when he saw that repeatable system that you could just plug anyone into, he was like, I'm in. Mortgaged his house, leveraged everything he could to bring McDonald's to the world. Well, today there's something sort of like that, in something that a whole lot of people are not taking advantage of, which is the Amazon influencer program. Now, you don't have to be famous. You don't have to chase viral videos. You don't have to do anything like that. You just have to have a repeatable system. And this repeatable system people are using to make $500 a month, $1,000 a month. I even know someone who's making $10,000 or more every single month in this particular program. Some people are even getting paid per video and turning those free products that they get into some real income, and then selling those products over on eBay to make a little bit more money without ever having to do some cringy dance or anything like that. Well, tomorrow, Thursday, June 5th at 6 p.m. Eastern, my friends Nate McAllister, you guys all know, and Liz Saunders, who's the creator of an Amazon influencer program extension called Fluencer Fruit. Well, they're going to be doing a free live webinar. And they're going to show like how the model works in 2025 and what's been changing. Going to share their best tips for scaling without like getting burnt out, although it's 60-second videos. It seems hard to burn out on. The mistakes that keep a lot of people stuck from actually getting started, and how people are building beyond Amazon with these videos. So if you're interested in maybe another income stream that doesn't require you to shell out for inventory, I would suggest that you listen in. If you head over to cleartheshelf.com/webinar, that's cleartheshelf.com/webinar, you can save your seat. Doesn't cost you a penny. Will take about 60 minutes of your time, and you should be able to learn something. All right. Oh, yeah. There we go. Lynn, thank you, Lynn. Lynn says your background's looking great. That's awesome.
Appreciate it. Yeah, looking forward to that webinar. I don't know. I got like the passive FOMO on that. You know, it just seems so easy. And actually, I think I just gave somebody a commission, maybe a couple people commission, because I was looking for. I need a desktop shelf, even though this thing is gigantic to begin with. I lost like a couple end tables and like drawer storage, you know, so I needed something to just sit my printer on that gave me some space underneath. And I watched the videos, you know, I found it helpful. I had the dimensions, you know, in the pictures, but it was one of those like private label, can't pronounce
37 centimeters.
Name.
Yeah,
the metric system instead of freedom units. You know, and it's like, I just wanted to see it, you know, so I ended up watching these videos, just get an idea of if it would work or not. So, yeah, as simple as that. And one or two people made some money off of it. Yeah. Just doing, and they were 30-second videos. So, I mean, that's tempting.
I've been meaning to get into it. I've got an account. It's all approved. I'm ready to go. We've had at least one video up. And I want to get into it enough where I can justify buying some of those Meta glasses so that I can take videos with those, you know, like point of view style. But
although they said the reviews on the Google lenses that are coming out with Warby Parker is who they partnered with. They're saying those got right what Meta and Ray-Ban didn't. So
interesting. All right, well, maybe I wait a little bit. Now, guys, again, we're here to answer your guys' questions. I see some already pop into the chat. If you have questions, make sure to drop them in. We will get to them. I do have a little bit of extra news tonight, more than usual. But I was wondering if before we get to the news, Chris, would you mind if I hop on a soapbox for just a moment?
I look forward to it. Please do.
All right. So I was tagged in an Instagram post the other day, and there was a question posed in this Instagram post. And the question was, is it still responsible to teach people to sell on Amazon in today's environment. Now, typically, I don't get into these conversations. I've got my own convictions about it, and I don't expect others to hold the same ones. But the question was posed by someone I respect, and I thought it deserved a thoughtful response. But also, since I had gotten tagged, I honestly felt a little bit attacked, and that's not their fault. That's on me. And so, like, I don't think that I or we sugarcoat it. Like, Amazon is more difficult today than it was 2 or 3 years ago. Fees are up, the rules are stricter, ungating is more complicated, but it's not impossible, despite that being the original poster's point. AI support and then even human support, it feels like arguing with a brick wall. Like, I get that. I won't deny any of that. But I do want to be clear about something. Like, just because it's harder doesn't mean it's irresponsible to teach others how to do it the right way. Like, I would actually argue that it's more important now than it ever was to try and teach people the right way. And I think the data actually still supports getting started. If we zoom out from the frustration and look at some real data, which we've shared here, 73% of new sellers on the US Amazon marketplace make a sale within their first year. Doesn't say whether it's a profitable sale, doesn't say anything like that, but 73% making a sale in their first year is pretty solid. You could create an affiliate website, you could create your own Shopify store, and you're not going to have 73% of the people make a sale in their first year. Active seller count has dropped from 2.4 million to 1.9 million. In the meantime, traffic has been steady or growing, and gross merchandise volume is up. Matter of fact, I just saw news that total Amazon revenue is now it's within like $30 billion of Walmart total revenue, which is, that's an insane number. It's insane. So what does that mean? Well, it means fewer sellers and more opportunity per seller. I'm seeing that in a lot of Keepa graphs. So, but the question is still, well, what about ungating? And this is one of the biggest pain points that I hear, and I heard it brought up multiple times from this particular person. And there's been people say, well, I need 500 units to try to get ungated. I get that. That's too many. I've used a distributor that worked for years, and I'm still getting denied. I've submitted 30 to 40 cases and I'm still stuck. And I don't dismiss any of that. I empathize with it. But I've got to ask, like, after those 30 cases, did anyone try calling and opening up a case over the phone to try to bypass any automation? Did they photograph the invoice and hold it in their hand to try to trigger a human review? Did they escalate it to Jeff's team or an executive team? Because I've seen those sellers. They get stuck, and then on try number 31, they get approved. And outside of that, since May 1st, I have been ungated in over 950 brands, auto ungated. All right. Not because I've just gotten lucky, but because I'm putting in some effort where others are not willing to. I'm literally spending hours every single night ungating. And I think I've gone through about 3,500 brands so far to get those 950 plus. Now, I'm not saying that it's fair. I am saying that there is a way around it. The other thing is it's no longer a side hustle. It is not just going to the thrift store or going to a garage sale and flipping things on the internet anymore. It is a business. It can start as a side business, but it needs to be treated like a real one from day one. If you were starting any other kind of business, if you were starting a lawn mowing business, or you were starting a restaurant, even if it's a restaurant that's just open in the evenings after your regular 9-to-5 job is done, nobody would treat those the same way that many people treat an Amazon business. And the thing is that's what I've always taught, at least in my opinion. I've never taught that it's get rich quick. I've never taught that it's set it and forget it or it's passive income. What I have taught is that you can build a rich life slowly with some intention, with some systems, with some discipline. And then, of course, they brought up, well, what about the people who lost everything? You know, what about those who have lost tens of thousands of dollars? What about those who had to file for bankruptcy? What about the people who had to take out a home equity loan to cover an Amazon loan or eat massive losses due to something that was completely out of their control? Again, I empathize with those people. I do. But that is not unique to Amazon. What about the restaurant owner who files for bankruptcy? What about the contractor who loses their home because they're over-levered? What about the manufacturer who loses everything due to a fire from an arsonist? Okay, none of those things were their fault. And I'll tell you a personal story. I had to pay a $5,000 fine one time to the state of Ohio insurance department. It was not my fault. A client let their insurance lapse, and then someone fell down their business's stairs and broke their spine. Horrible accident. I felt incredibly bad, but they let their insurance cancel. I had receipts of their cancellation that I sent over via fax, timestamped. I had mailed cancellation letters from the company. I had phone call records, and I took those to the Department of Insurance, and they still fined me $5,000. I had no choice but to either pay or lose my license. No fault of my own. Business is risky. It always has been. It always will be. It doesn't matter what business you're in, but when it comes to Amazon, for some reason, when the worst thing does happen, it always seems to be everyone else's fault. It was Amazon's fault. Or whoever scammed them for a $300 course is surely the evil character in this scenario. It's this double standard, I think. Like, the issue isn't the business model. It's that too many people enter it expecting to treat it like a lottery ticket, not like a real business. But on top of that, the wins are real, and I hear too many of them. I'll tell you two stories. It was a few years ago, but a seller sent me a picture, and he wasn't doing crazy numbers. He sent me a picture of his kid taking their first steps. He was at home. He wasn't stuck in a job. He wasn't stuck in traffic because of the business he built on Amazon due to what I've taught. Another seller, and he started with $6,000. All right. It was COVID money. And he took the OA challenge. And today he works 20 hours a week and spends the rest of the time with his family. He has one VA, one part-time employee who handles finding leads, buying leads, and shipping those things off to Amazon. And for the past 4 years, he's done 1.2 million with 10 to 12% margins after everything is said and done. Now, did any of those people get there overnight? No, absolutely not. I would never lie to anyone saying that you're going to be there in 6 months. All right. But they did what I always tell people to do. They started small. They made small, educated, and asymmetric bets on themselves, and they treated it like a real business. And then finally, to the people who think that they're gated in everything, I know we've talked about this already. You're not. All right. You're gated in Nike. You're gated in Adidas. You're gated in Lego. We've all gotten hit with the Cliniques and the Estee Lauders, etc. Yes, some of these large brands doing tens of millions of dollars a month are getting more difficult, and it sucks. All right. But there's a reality check to this system. All right. To this thing. They are actually an incredibly small part of the total ecosystem. Nike, Adidas, and Lego, those three brands represent an estimated $146 million in monthly revenue to Amazon. That is an estimated number, all right? Amazon's total monthly revenue is creeping up on $35 billion a month in the US alone, all right? That doesn't even include worldwide. So those three massive brands make up about 1/2 of 1% of Amazon's gross monthly nut. And there are literally millions of other brands on Amazon. And like I said before, I've been ungating hundreds of them over the past couple of weeks to prove this point. I'm going to share something about that in a week or so. All right. So if you're willing to look past these obvious brands and look at the ones that are doing $50,000, $75,000, $120,000 a month on Amazon, and then go put in some real effort and be a little strategic, you will find inventory that's ungated, inventory that's profitable. Period. Like there's no arguing that, unfortunately. I've got numbers on my side. So the question still remains, is it irresponsible to teach selling on Amazon in 2025? I'm going to say no. And I know and admit that I'm completely biased, as a portion of my income is derived from teaching others what I think is the right way to sell on Amazon. But if I'm being honest about the risks, I'm being honest about the work required and the long game that it demands, and I'm trying to equip people with the right tools, the right strategies, and the right mindset to do this well, then I think it's the right thing to do. It's irresponsible of those who do sell hype, of those who strap on a Rolex and go rent a Lambo and tell people they can use fraud labels and break Nike socks down into smaller packs and sell them. But I've never done that. I've always taught that this is a path to freedom through a lot of hard work, a path to buying back your time eventually, all right, and a path to building a business that you can have control over your time and what you're going to do. But it's not always easy. Simple, but not always easy. So if you happen to be new here, or you're in this game and gnashing your teeth about how difficult it's become, it's not easy, but I think it's still worth it. And it's not for everyone, of course, and that's okay. But this business still works, and I'm going to keep showing up to help those that want to do that work and want to be taught the right way to do things, because I enjoy it, and honestly, because I think it's my responsibility to teach it the right way.
Yeah, that's well said. Look, I'll get the sour grapes out of the way. I think you were right to feel attacked, because I'll be honest, I was surprised and quite honestly disappointed by the person who posted this. I know who it is. We've talked to him. I love his story. So I was kind of it kind of knocked me off kilter a little bit to see this from him, because at best, a question like this is engagement bait, borderline rage bait. He tried to pose it as an honest question, which it is not. There's nothing positive, there's nothing productive to come from a question like this. And it's certainly not a fact-finding mission. At one point in time, he said, tell me what you're teaching. No, who is going to do that? So this was, it was born from, my guess is personal frustration. He's probably having some difficulty and kind of wanted to vent and get a little confirmation bias, because he knows the vast majority of responses to a question like that is going to be negative. Like, yeah, screw Amazon and no, it's not worth it. But I got news for you. Depending on how you taught or how you teach, it could have been irresponsible in 2020 when it was super, super easy and you could get ungated with pictures of your dog. It depends on how you teach your curriculum and what it consists of. It has nothing to do with the current state of Amazon. This is not unless you're getting ready to pack it in, then, go ahead and comment and give them a hell yeah. It's irresponsible, and there are people like that. We see them in the Facebook group and whatnot, but let me get the I can't not bring up the semantics part of it. Because is it responsible? Like, why is the burden of responsibility on the teacher? It kind of puts everybody in a group. Number one, it assumes that Amazon is no longer an opportunity. The wording, almost implies that he thinks Amazon is eliminating their third-party sellers, which they absolutely are not. But that's a common perception for people who don't, kind of maybe let emotion get the best of them, and just kind of take these things and not really understand what the constructive part of Amazon's decisions are. But, is it responsible? Okay. So now we know now that a glass of wine a day isn't actually healthy for you,
Right.
and drinking in moderation, it's not healthy for you. It's it's just doing the least amount of damage as possible if you choose to partake. So now that that's been debunked, is Anheuser-Busch and Diageo, are they going to shut down their factories because it's not responsible to sell alcohol? Because basically it's, you can make, scientific consensus says any amount is potentially dangerous. Did they shut down? No. Did, sugar, type 2 diabetes is on the rise, candy companies, Hostess, you shut down the Twinkies and the ding dongs, because there's no nutritional value. Did they shut it down? No. Johnson & Johnson, that evil corporation, Johnson & Johnson, they know damn well people are sticking Q-tips in their ears. Okay? They know. They can't pretend like they don't know. They're not. They sell 3 billion Q-tips a year. There is not that much keyboard cleaning, and the pictures of cleaning the bottom of babies' feet with a Q-tip. Get out of here with that. We're sticking them in our ears.
Never once used a Q-tip on a baby's feet.
No, and I clean my keyboard 3 times a year. A box of Q-tips. If we did what they said, what Johnson & Johnson said, therefore, I'd have the same box of Q-tips for my entire life. Okay, we are jamming those bastards in our ears and getting that borderline ear orgasm when you hit that one spot and you kind of like your shoulder kind of twitches and your leg kind of goes a little bit. We're sticking them in our damn ears, and Johnson & Johnson knows it. Do they stop producing Q-tips? No, they don't. They sell 3 billion. So where's the responsibility lie? They sell them because there is a market for it. Okay. It is not the course seller's responsibility to determine whether the curriculum and the subject matter that they teach, whether it's responsible or not. That's ignorant. It's a business. And what businesses do, how they determine whether it's going to be a good business or not, is market research. And if you determine there's a market for it, and you have a means to produce the product and sell it profitably, you start a business. I mean, it's just, that part drove me nuts. And if it is frustration, shame on you for trying to make it sound more legitimate than it actually is. Just have a bitch session. Just come in and talk to Scott and Alberto and FBA today. You guys can grind all you want to on the negatives of what you see on Amazon. It's funny. I had an inkling of what we were going to talk about today, and I'm listening. I mowed the grass today finally, and I always listen to an audiobook when I mow. And I'm currently listening to "Get Out of Your Own Way" by Mark Golston, and I forget. I can't ever remember the second author. I'm lucky to remember that. And they reminded me of a good quote that I thought was perfect for the upcoming subject matter. It's actually, you remember Pat Summitt, the legendary women's basketball coach from Tennessee, right?
Yeah, she was amazing.
She really was. She has a quote attributed to her that is, you can't ball your fist and roll up your sleeves at the same time. And then, so he brought that up. And then further on in the chapter, surprisingly, chapter 28 of the book is called "Feeling Sorry for Yourself." And he basically, he claims that self-pity feeds itself, essentially, so the more you feel it. And he basically said, if you keep feeling sorry for yourself, you'll really have a reason to be sorry. Right. So it's, and those two are connected, because we have a choice. It got harder. Is it, but it's been this hard before, and Chris, we've had conversations about it depends on when you got in to Amazon. If you caught the wave in 2020, your view, your perspective is simply, it was easy. And now it's a lot harder. If you started before 2020, you're going to have a slightly different view. But we have a choice. We can ball our fists and use up our energy to feel sorry for ourselves and drain the energy of others to the point that others won't want to talk to you after a certain point. If that's all you do is feel sorry for yourself and self-pity, you let that kind of take hold. That's the ball on your fist. Or you can unclench your fist, roll up your sleeves, and get back to work. And final thought, I honestly, and I truly believe this. This isn't a veiled sales pitch or brown nosing to you, Chris, or any of the sellers. I would make an argument that people starting today in the current environment, taught by a responsible teacher, are probably going to be some of the most badass, resilient Amazon sellers that we see. And I'm kind of nervous to compete against them because they're likely going to work circles around me.
Yeah. All right. We'll move on from here, guys. I responded to the video and responded to the responses, and but we've got a platform too, so that's what I use it for sometimes. All right. Again, we want to answer your guys' questions, except for Jesse. I'm not going to say who it was. I'm not looking for anybody to go blow them up or anything. But if you got questions about selling on Amazon, drop them below. We will get to them. I've got a couple extra pieces of news today because there was a lot out there today. So the first one is going to be a quick one. There's a change coming. We got to pour one out for price banded shipping. So Amazon just axed one of the kind of the last customizable tools for all of you MFers out there. Starting on June 30th, you're not going to be able to use price band based shipping rates for new shipping templates on fulfilled by merchant listings. So what that means is you're no longer going to be able to charge different shipping fees on how much the buyer spends. So say you charge $3.99 for orders under $25, and maybe you offer free shipping above that, that's going away. Instead, you're going to be required to use a per item or a weight-based rate model for any new templates that you create. However, saying that, any existing templates that you have that use price bands are going to be grandfathered in. So it's not like they're just going to take them away overnight. New templates created after June 30th must follow the new model. And Amazon obviously recommends switching now to make sure to maintain consistency. That's probably code for you're going to lose those eventually. So just get on board. And honestly, I don't know. This is another thing we could get upset about, but I think this actually makes a ton of sense. Amazon wants to continue to push to make sure that they are the most customer-centric company in the world. Price-banded shipping is confusing, and anything that causes confusion gets customers to bounce. So if you don't like it, move to a weight-based model. You could probably get away with charging more anyway. So that's all. I don't know. Not a whole lot to debate there, I don't think.
Yeah. And I am not an MFer myself, but explain to me how not being able to offer your own free shipping threshold is pro customer from Amazon's perspective.
Yeah, that's fair. Good question. I would imagine that Amazon would rather you just charge a flat rate. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
Is Amazon saying like, hey, we handle the upsells around here, knock it off?
Yeah, I'm guessing that's really the only thing. And honestly, listen, based on some of the changes that have been made recently, I really do. And this is something I was having a conversation with somebody who's much smarter than I am. It does seem like the suits are kind of out of touch with like what actually goes on in the selling world. I will I will be 100%, honest about that. I think that, we've got a bunch of Deloitte dropouts who, think this is going to make conversion tick up 0.01%.
Yeah. There's no doubt that the suits are out of touch, like Yoda all but confirmed that when Amazon didn't realize the need for sellers to be able to create their SKUs immediately,
Right.
and why we have to revalidate the information when we build our own batches.
Yeah. If someone was actually on a shipping line, they would never do that. They'd be like, oh, this goes against all lean principles. I wonder if anybody at Amazon is even like Six Sigma, a black belt or anything these days.
I hear Sigma and I my daughter's voice. I can't. It's completely changed its meaning. So
right. Back to school has a new start date, which I read this and I was like, you got to be freaking kidding me! Like, school just got out. But back to school shopping is starting earlier than ever, with many retailers having already kicked off promotions as early as Memorial Day weekend. My kid wasn't even out of school on Memorial Day weekend. But according to Gartner and Associates and some retail executives from places like Wayfair and Amazon, early June now is the new starting gun for what used to be mid to late summer sales cycles. So why the shift? Well, some say that it's tariff uncertainty, and it's got some suppliers and some sellers scrambling to beat what they think may end up being future cost increases. The 90-day tariff pause means brands are kind of rushing to import and also liquidate before any new rates do kick in. And then we've also got retailers that are clearing out old inventory and trying to make room for fall stock and try to sync with Amazon Prime Day, which historically and increasingly is kind of the de facto launch of the back to school cycle. One brand, Hydros, which is a water filtration company, their CEO, Winston Ibrahim, said that they're trying to fast track orders. They're prepping for discounts and they're trying to trim their SKUs to really just focus on the best sellers for this back to school season. And this is all coming when cargo shipments from China to the US are reportedly down 60% year over year, which is leading some retailers to worry about inventory shortages heading into fall. Retailers and brands alike are now planning months ahead to try to make sure that goods get here, that they can be priced competitively, and make the most of what may be a condensed and a chaotic sales window. Now, the reason I bring this up is because when words like inventory shortages and chaotic enter the conversation about things that people have to buy for their children and not just want to buy, well, it screams opportunity for arbitrage sellers. So if nothing else, if you're not taking advantage of these already, it is time to start keeping your eyes peeled for things that you can flip for back to school sales. And maybe even look at last year's Keepa charts and move them forward just a hair, and little less competition compared to last year. It should equal good things for both back to school and as we start moving into Q3, which is when people are going to start shopping for the holidays.
Yeah, and there's something to be said about simply being out there, and just continually source, because what usually happens, in these situations, I think consumers get a little complacent. What's going to happen is this is going to lose its impact with customers. Nobody wants to start back to school shopping, right now. This is our first week of summer vacation with the girls. I don't even know where the supply list went. I just kind of chucked it for next year. It's like,
I'm not even thinking about that right now.
No. So, you're going to have, you're going to be at the mercy of consumer preference. I guess there are going to be people that are going to try to take advantage of the sale. The frugal ones who are driven by the discount rather than the calendar. So certain stuff's going to go out of stock. I see it being kind of splotchy, just here and there, which is why I say it's important to be out there and to source consistently, because I think we're going to find stuff. You're going to be able to find stuff on shelves if you're doing RA that is probably largely out of stock online, which is clearly an advantage. And then you're going to have spotty restocks, so you can actually grab more supply of something that's been out of stock online and go back in stock and get the early mover advantage on that. So I think it's going to be a series of sporadic small wins to be had if you're there, if you're present in the sourcing space.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really would like to figure out, like, when is the consumer going to get so tired of these shopping periods being so drawn out? Like, I'm so tired of Black Friday being like 3 weeks long now. It's a little ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically the effect that Kohl's and JCPenney have. You get stuck in always needing to have a discount. Kohl's, it's you're essentially never supposed to pay full ticket price, on anything that they have going on. It's just a matter of how many discounts you can stack. Exactly. And it becomes a joke. I remember I see the emails, I laugh every time. It's like, hey, sale ends today. It's like, okay, well, the next one starts tomorrow, so get out of my inbox. Shut up. The other example that I thought of was I remember when I was a kid, that was like the first time car sales, like model years, that was like the first time, and they kept moving it up. And I remember I hearing the adults around me laughing and just shaking their head at pretty soon it's going to be January 2025, the 2026 models are going to come out, and they're wondering where it would stop, and it just kind of, it loses all effectiveness after a while. And I was trying to think of what the state of that is right now, and I guess they kind of stopped at the last, I don't know, when do we start hearing about the new models? Maybe September, they kind of stopped. But nobody really talks about it anymore. Nobody's like, oh man, I got a sweet deal on a 2025 because the 26s have already hit the showroom, and it just kind of,
all I know is they need to make Toyotathon great again. If nothing else happens, let's make that great again. All right, guys, we got one more piece of news that I found incredibly interesting, so we're going to share it, and then we'll get to your guys' questions. So make sure to drop them in the chat. It sort of got slow there for a minute. But retail crime just got a bit of a RICO-style response. So we have talked several times about organized retail crime theft, and it's continuing to be battled. But last week, there was a first ever nationwide crackdown on organized retail crime. It was led by Cook County, Illinois, and it was massive. It involved more than 100 law enforcement jurisdictions across 28 states. They partnered with 30 plus major retailers, including Home Depot, Macy's, Target, Ulta, Walgreens, Kroger, Meijer, and a bunch more. And it ended up resulting in hundreds of arrests. And the cool thing is they were sharing like real-time intelligence across agencies and stuff like this. Now, this wasn't just the teenager out for a stroll, picking up something with a 5-finger discount. Okay. They were going after organized groups, hitting stores strategically, and then fencing those goods through networks like Amazon and eBay, and converting that stolen merchandise into cash. Retailers reported a 93% increase in shoplifting incidents in 2023 compared to 2019. And a 90% increase in financial losses. Ulta had their loss prevention teams in 9 states, Walgreens in 20 cities and over 40 locations. And Home Depot says that organized retail crime cases are still up double digits year over year. even though like the general trend of just regular theft is actually down. So what changed? Well, the biggest thing that changed is they put a new felony threshold policy into place in Cook County. Previously, retail theft felony charges required goods to be valued at more than $1,000 or 10 prior convictions. Now it's only $300 and a single prior felony conviction. And since December the 1st, so 7 months, Cook County prosecutors have filed over 1,400 felony retail theft cases just in Cook County, Illinois. So with more organized retail theft operations using Amazon and eBay to flip stolen goods, like it's obvious why Amazon's been doing some of the things that they've been doing, why they're a little bit tighter on documentation controls, why maybe they're a little bit faster to want you to prove authenticity. But if law enforcement keeps doing this, I hope that this is eventually going to be a big win for all of us who are legitimate resellers. However, and I shouldn't have to say this now, but I will say it again, like, please keep all of your receipts, your shipping confirmations, your order confirmations. Keep them all. All right. Don't source gray area products just because they're cheap. I get emails about once a week, and I get DMs almost every single day from, hey, we're a wholesaler and we'd like to send you, our price list of all these items that you can get at Ulta and Home Depot. Like, big red flags. Okay. And they're doing business out of a storage unit or some empty field in the middle of Iowa. All right. And hopefully, it's not going to happen immediately, but hopefully over time, we can have a little less competition if they keep up the heat on these folks. Prices are not always getting nuked on Amazon because someone doesn't know their numbers or they, messed with their repricer incorrectly. Sometimes it's just because they got inventory via a 5-finger discount. So I hope they really go hard on this stuff.
Yeah, that was my thought as you were going through that is I hope this opens the floodgates. Because it was, I don't know whether it was just maybe the content that I was consuming. But it seemed like it got very casual, like the retail theft. I just yesterday, I saw a reel that, it was somebody, it seemed like it was an employee on their phone filming retail theft. And these two people, they were walking as casual as could be. It's like they were just kind of teens, just walking the mall or something, right? And he just casually walking, and he turns towards the camera and has one of those triggered pepper spray cans that like the police use. And he just lays down a fog of pepper spray, and then the camera view just kind of obviously turns, jerks real quick as I assume the pepper spray hit the person recording, but it just sprayed a cloud of pepper spray and just walked on out with bags full of stuff.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and then you've seen the videos of they're almost like mobs, where it's just a mass of people and they just kind of bum rush the store and then leave all together with a whole bunch of stuff. So just pretty ballsy stuff,
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of makes me wonder why it took this long to organize the other side of it. Yeah. The thieves were well organized. We kind of took our time collecting enough a plan to attack it.
Right. Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, hopefully, I hope this. I don't know if they really crack down. I think that long term, it's just going to be good things. So hopefully they keep at it. Certainly, who knows? All right, let's get to some of your guys' questions. It's just me. You're up first. What do you do when you sell a product labeled non-returnable? So you're probably talking something that is hazmat, maybe a grocery item, something like that. And Amazon refunds the customer and the safety claim was denied. Well, so the safety claim was denied once. That doesn't mean you can't open that case again and go after it again. What I would be doing is, if it was 100% certain that it was refunded outside of Amazon terms of service, you're probably going to need to quote Amazon terms of service to them and say, hey, listen, you guys refunded this outside of your terms of service and I need to be reimbursed. And then you're going to have to keep after it. Okay. We got to remember that Amazon employees, like, it's easy to say no because they won't get in trouble. But if they were to reimburse you, incorrectly, well, that's going to be a black mark on their record. Okay. So it's not that the person is necessarily wanting to do the wrong thing. It's just the incentive is not there to make sure they get it right. So you have to kind of walk them in that direction. But make sure that the customer did not use some reason to get refunded, like you sent the wrong item. I'm not saying you did, but if the customer says, well, I was sent the wrong item, unfortunately, Amazon may not reimburse you for that. Carson, yes, I am still enjoying my Old Man Salt book. It's actually really fascinating. I'm on chapter 5 or 6 now. Words like salacious and salary come from the word salt. The term that person or that thing is worth its weight in gold actually comes from the way that they used to barter or haggle over salt. The salt merchant would lay a pile of salt on a table, and the person buying it would lay a pile of gold on the table, and they would silently barter or haggle. Okay. And the person with the gold would take some gold away or put some gold in, and the person with the salt would leave some or take some salt or put some salt in. And that's where that comes from. And then the word salad, it actually comes from salt as well, because salad was literally just salted bitter greens back in the day. So a lot of interesting stuff, and learning about like the Celts and, salt in France and salt in China. It is fascinating. And I know that makes me a nerd. Teenage me would kick myself in the shins. What is Merchant Shipping Group? I don't know. That doesn't sound familiar. I'd have to go and okay. So what is Merchant Shipping Group? What Merchant Shipping Group is that is the new term for your shipping templates. Okay. So as a merchant fulfilled shipping template is now called a Merchant Shipping Group. Stupid that they've changed this name after 10 years. All right. Big thing to know is that right now they are not working on mobile. So if you're one of those gluttons for punishment that do everything on mobile, you're going to have to go to a desktop. Lonnie, speaking of auto ungating, have you reset or cleared out your excluded brands in tactical arbitrage? I did go and mess around with those and get some of them out. Yes. Brian. All right. So where does one get started? Complete newbie here. All right. So here's what I would suggest. All right. Set yourself a timer for 1 week, 40 hours. Now, maybe that takes you 2 weeks of actual time or whatever. Put aside 40 hours. Okay. Go through Amazon Seller University. Pick some YouTube videos. I think that the ones that Chris and I do together are great. There are also other people out there who are making good videos on how to source and things like that. Go watch a little bit on YouTube University. go and follow some people on Twitter, join some Facebook groups, and spend a little bit of time scrolling. And then once you hit that 40 hours, you get that account, all right, and you go out and you start doing some sourcing. I don't care whether it's retail arbitrage, online arbitrage, whatever it is. Go do some sourcing based on what you've learned and make some small bets. It's going to take you a while to find the first product that is ungated, that is profitable, and all of that stuff. But buy 3 units and send them off to Amazon. Learn the process, see what happens, okay? And then once you start verifying it, then go a little bit deeper. Buy 5 different products and maybe buy 5 of each. And then once you really start getting comfortable, then it's time to be as aggressive as you are comfortable being. Oh, Ryan. Ryan, I don't know that Chris Beam is here anymore. I would imagine she's got some better things to do. But I'd be happy to do that with her. Customer's return reason was unsatisfactory. It was a lawn equipment gas oil product. Yep. So it was a hazmat product. Unfortunately, that could be one where Amazon just says, well, they weren't happy with it. And if that's the case, that's outside of a return reason. And so I would quote Amazon's terms of service on that. Be like, that's not an actual reason. They got the right thing, just because they bought 2-stroke and it wasn't 4-stroke gas. That's not on you. That's on them. Oh, look at that. Luke says, your wife has the old man salt book on her reading list, and I'm sure she's going to tell me I have to read it. It's fascinating. It really is.
Yeah. See, there's got to be something to it. It's too many people recommending it for it not to be good.
Right. Well, listen, we want to answer some more of your guys' questions. Been a little light here, question-wise. Perhaps the soapbox at the beginning was a mistake, but love to answer your guys' questions. If not, I can head out of here, go eat some dinner, and take a walk.
Yeah. What you want to talk about? We should talk about what Perry said on Twitter.
Oh yeah, Perry brought up something really good.
Yeah, he actually he doubled down on, was it last Wednesday's show? I don't remember which show it was, but he took he was listening to us, and I don't know if he just picked this one out and he's a regular listener, or he just kind of happened to catch this episode and he doesn't realize how much we talk about them.
Right.
But Perry, he just tweeted, he put a link to the show where we talked about it, and basically, and he gave some insight. He went in depth on his philosophy, him and his wife Kim. He said, talking about return rates, and it was primarily around clothing and shoes, and the fact that the consensus from Amazon sellers seems to be that the return rate, it becomes too risky to invest your capital in inventory in that category, so it's kind of seen as the safe move is to stay away from that category, which is exactly why they jumped in head first, because people were saying it wasn't an opportunity, right? And they said it on the show. We've interviewed Perry twice. Was Kim there both times? She was only.
I think Kim was only there once.
Yeah. We talked to Perry and Kim once, and then we had Perry on again a second time. You can even find the same thing echoed in the Nick Huber interview, where he said, if everyone's talking about the opportunity, it's too late and it's time to look elsewhere. So it's kind of this contrarian view of business opportunities, which is exactly what Perry and Kim did. They said, all right, everyone says this is too risky. Let's go, and he talks about it because it's not only risk tolerance. He also talks about it's knowing his numbers. He felt confident in the fact that he could analyze his return rates, spot the trends within the category. He could get granular to where he could eliminate, probably ASINs, or certain styles of shoes above other ones, and could actually reduce the return rate to on their way to 8 figures in sales. So yeah, if you follow either one of us, he tagged us both. If you're on Twitter, check that out. Was it Brian Ivy? If you're on Twitter at all, check that out, and then follow. Use that as a rabbit trail for who you should follow on Twitter. If you're starting to accumulate some Amazon FBA voices and content in your own feeds, you do well to take a look at their accounts, who they follow. The two of us, of course, check out who we follow, who we talk to and interact with, and you'll be on a good track too. But yeah, his tweet's definitely worth checking out.
Yeah. Dre brings up a good point here. I've not had an issue in the shoe category, but he only sells unique widths like triple E and abnormal sizes. This is where I think a lot of people stay away from these things because their velocity is slower. And of course, you're selling to the 1%, but you're also selling to people who are going to be less price sensitive because they're just used to paying more because they got big old clodhoppers. And they need to get a shoe, and they may not be able to ever get it. They may not be able to get it anywhere else.
Yeah. No, my son has a size 15, 16 foot. Yeah. And you just kind of know that you're resigned to the fact that you're going to pay more. And you have to be less picky because there's less supply and it's why I like selling organic in grocery and it's why I like it's why so many people sell weight loss stuff and diet stuff because it's there's built-in margins based on the certain factors.
Yeah, and Luke, you're absolutely right. There are some high IQ sellers over on Twitter. That text-based first, and some people wanting to be anonymous. There are some high IQ sellers on Twitter. It is a great place to be. And listen, I will admit that if you're not careful, you can be sucked down some rabbit holes that you probably don't want to spend time in, but you can't help yourself. You just have to make sure to curate your feed very, very well.
Yeah. And you can curate it is the big thing, like Twitter and no other social media platform or content platform. Are you able to customize what you see as much as Twitter, and it's, so even though it's, you may not like some things about it or some voices on it, you can customize it. You can hide it, and you can have specific lists. I can have I still have a sports list. From when I was, heavy into daily fantasy sports and stuff like that, and then I built an Amazon list, and I could choose which one I go. I could choose my own content essentially, instead of ads and autoplay videos and that garbage.
Yep. Lonnie, what are your thoughts on Tactical Arbitrage beta? Do you know if 3 Colts will keep both interfaces, or will we need to adapt to the beta? I don't know if for sure they're going to get rid of the both interfaces or not. I do know that they've got a lot of plans for the beta version of Tactical Arbitrage, and they're going to be adding a lot of things. I don't know what I'm allowed to share and what I'm not allowed to share. So that's all I'll say is they've got a lot of plans that I think are going to be pretty solid. Yeah, Paulie, come on over to, I can't call it X. Come on over to Twitter, man. dive on in. All right, Chris, how do you get a University of Michigan graduate off your porch?
I don't know. Please tell
Pay
me.
for the pizza.
Perfect.
That's the dad joke this week. I was missing another way to get one in at those in Ann Arbor. But thanks for hanging out with us, guys. Appreciate you listening to us blather on for a little while. We're going to be back on Sunday to answer your guys' questions again, bring you a little bit more news as we get closer to Prime Day. Remember, you've got about 2 weeks to get your inventory in to make sure that it's there for Prime Day, which is going to be a 4-day event this year. So it is time to get on the ball if you're not. All right. That's it for us, everybody. We'll see you on Sunday at 3 p.m.